Commander is inherently very different from all other formats. Being a multiplayer free-for-all means there are many dynamics at play other than just raw power of a deck. In a 1v1, there's far less options available to you for creativity. For instance, I can't strike a deal with my opponent to not attack me, since it would be disadvantageous for them to accept. But you didn't click on this video to hear about how to strike a deal. Instead, you want to learn about how to not need to in the first place. The key lies in the inherent nature of threat assessment. It's not uncommon for someone to go completely under the radars of all the other players for the entire game and come out of nowhere and steal the win. Why is that? I think the answer has to do with that player having nothing requiring immediate removal. In a game where there's game-ending spells hitting the stack back to back nearly every turn, it feels like removal is at a premium to be able to stop these things from ending the game outright. After all, no one can win if you've already lost. Who would have thought? The issue is that removal doesn't hit everything, and so some things slip through the cracks, and that's what we're going to build for. Our main game plan is going to be build up our resources in the early game and play cards that gain us value but aren't threatening enough to draw attention. When the other players attempt to end the game, we hope that it gets dealt with by everyone else's removal and only use ours if we need to in order to stop the game from ending. Ultimately, the last player standing wins. Everything that comes before it doesn't matter. Sounds simple enough in theory, but is much harder to implement effectively in practice, as we need to hit a very difficult sweet spot between cards being too strong and drawing too much attention versus maintaining a certain standard for card quality. After all, it doesn't matter if your stuff doesn't get removed if you can't capitalize on it by taking first place. Something I've noticed is that most decks see first place as a goal and try to get there as fast as possible. However, we differ because we aim for second place until it's just a 1v1, then win the 1v1 for first. Focus on survival until it's down to you and the person in the driver's seat, then sneak the win out from underneath them. In my Thantis deck, for instance, my goal is to force combat, which will speed up the progression of the game and put my opponents in difficult situations without drawing much attention my way. If my opponents choose to attack me, however, I hit them with one-sided fogs, forcing them to lose their best creature, grow my commander, and not even get in for the damage they originally sought out for. The rest of the game is spent trying to accrue value with various card engines and ramp, firing off removal when necessary, and stockpiling resources for when one of my opponents kills the other two. Afterwards, I have a slew of unblockable effects, combat tricks, and even threaten effects to make sure I can get the final kill. While I recognize fogs don't stop everything, and or my opponents may have too much of a value mid-range engine for me to stop, I have two opponents that will do as much as possible to prevent themselves from losing as well, which means using their removal to slow them down. All we need to do is not threaten winning the game and let them fight amongst themselves. So what do we put in our command zone and deck? Ideally, we want three things: value, survivability, and a way to excel in a 1v1. Have a baseline board state that disincentivizes people from taking you out early, as, if you're a free kill, people might take it. It can be as simple as a big board of death touchers, or more elaborate like a dedicated pillow fort. Even just generically good blockers can do the trick. Afterwards, pick your strategy for dismantling the final player's board and taking advantage of weaknesses you may foresee. Finally, cram your deck with ways to stock up on resources and sculpt a strong hand, and you're golden. Ideally, your commander should facilitate one of these, but isn't required. Go ham and fight for second place in order to achieve first. If you liked the video and think someone you know may benefit from watching it, consider sharing it with them so we can all become better deck builders together. This has been Tago's Rock, and I am out.